What if the greatest mistake of your life is not a crime, not a failure, not a missed opportunity, but the person you choose to marry? Imagine standing before the mirror, staring at your own reflection, and realizing too late that the chains around your soul were not forged by your enemies, but by the one you trusted the most. Carl Jung rarely spoke in absolutes, but when he did, he spoke the kind of truth you can't ignore. He believed the unconscious doesn't simply sleep inside us. It acts, manipulates, deceives. And nowhere does it show itself more vividly than in our relationships. You're told marriage is love, commitment, stability. But what if it's something else? What if it's a battlefield disguised as romance? A place where you don't just share a home, but also your deepest wounds, your shadow, your projections all waiting to explode. Jung saw something terrifying. Not every woman heals a man. Some destroy him, not through cruelty alone, but through something more subtle, more insidious. A draining presence that consumes his ambition, bends his will, and erases his individuality. To Jung, the wrong partner was not just a bad match. She was a psychological catastrophe. So ask yourself, what kind of woman will build your soul and what kind will consume it? This isn't a warning against women or against marriage itself. It's a warning against blindness, against the danger of walking into a union without knowing the forces at play both in her and within yourself. Because sometimes the most dangerous trap isn't set by society or fate or chance. It's set by the person you choose to love. Marriage has always been painted as a promise of safety, as if two people walking down an aisle somehow escape the storms of the world. Yet beneath the ceremony and the vows lies something Jung understood far too well. Marriage is not a sanctuary, it is a crucible, a place where two psyches collide and expose what was once hidden in silence. Think of it less as a home and more as a battlefield. Not one marked by swords or guns, but by archetypes, shadows, and projections. Every morning you wake up not just beside another person, but beside a reflection of yourself. Her words stir your insecurities. Your silence awakens her fears. Love doesn't dissolve the past, it sharpens it. Jung taught that every man carries within him an anima, the feminine image of his psyche, and every woman carries her animus, the masculine counterpart. In marriage, these unconscious figures come alive. They speak through moods, through conflicts, through unexplainable attractions and sudden bursts of rage. What feels like a simple argument over money or time is often the voice of the unconscious, demanding recognition. Imagine trying to fight a war without realizing you are already on the battlefield. That is what happens when two unconscious minds unite under one roof. You think you are choosing a partner, when in truth you are confronting your own shadow, your own unfinished wounds magnified by intimacy. And this is why Jung's warning was so profound. He understood that marriage is not only the joining of two hearts, it is also the joining of two unconscious worlds. If either person refuses to see this, if either clings to denial or blindness, then the marriage becomes less a partnership and more a slow erosion of the self. So ask yourself, are you ready for the war that begins once the honeymoon ends? Jung never said that all women were dangerous. He never suggested that love itself was a trap. What he did say, however, is that some women embody an archetype so powerful, so consuming that a man who falls under her spell risks losing far more than his freedom. He risks losing himself. This is the archetype of the destructive anima. She doesn't announce herself with cruelty at first. Quite the opposite. She arrives with intensity, with charm, with a force that feels like destiny. Her presence is magnetic. She sees through you in ways no one else has. She promises salvation, completion, even transcendence. And that is what makes her so dangerous. Imagine this: you meet her, and suddenly your ambitions no longer matter as much. The goals you once pursued with fire begin to flicker. You rationalize it. You tell yourself you're prioritizing love. But deep down, something in you knows you're trading the future for her approval. Over time, you don't even notice the erosion. You justify it with words like sacrifice, loyalty, commitment. Yet the truth is simpler: you are being consumed. Jung described this figure as the devouring mother, an archetype disguised in the form of a lover. She feeds not on your affection, but on your potential. The more you give, the more she requires. The more you surrender, the weaker you become. And slowly your individuality fades until you are nothing more than an extension of her will. You may have seen it around you. The young man who abandoned his dreams to stay in her orbit. The artist who never painted again because she resented his solitude. The older man who wakes up one morning and realizes that decades have passed and his life's purpose dissolved into someone else's demands. The destructive anima isn't always malicious. Often she is unconscious of her role. Yet that doesn't lessen the devastation, because what is at stake is not just a relationship, but your soul's growth. Jung's warning was not about fearing women. It was about recognizing archetypes that can devour you from within. The most dangerous woman, then, is not simply the one you meet. It is the one who awakens your projections, hijacks your destiny, and leaves you hollow in the name of love. If this destructive archetype is so dangerous, then why do men fall for her again and again? Why do intelligent, ambitious, self-aware men still find themselves caught in her orbit, unable to break free? Until it's too late, Jung's answer was unsettling. Because it isn't her, you see, it's yourself. Every man carries within him an anima, his inner image of the feminine. It is shaped by his mother, by childhood experiences, by culture, by unconscious longings. He doesn't even know he has. When he meets a woman, he rarely sees her as she is. Instead, he projects this inner image onto her. She becomes a screen for his hidden desires, his unspoken wounds, his fantasy of completion. This is why she feels so intoxicating, so inevitable. It isn't just attraction, it's recognition. You look at her and believe you've found destiny, when in reality you've only stumbled into your own shadow reflected back at you. Through her presence, Jung warned that projection is one of the most dangerous forces in human relationships. It blinds you, convinces you that illusion is reality, that chaos is love. In modern times, this trap is even more amplified. Dating apps, social media, endless validation loops. They don't just introduce people, they amplify projection. You scroll through curated profiles, filtered images, clever captions, and mistake them for intimacy. By the time you meet her, the projection is already in place. You've already decided who she is, long before you've even heard her voice. And so the cycle repeats. Men confuse intensity for connection. They confuse chaos for passion. They confuse the thrill of projection for the safety of love. The archetype thrives in this blindness, growing stronger with every sacrifice made in her name. Ask yourself, how many times have you looked back and realized she wasn't who you thought she was? How many times have you woken up and wondered how much of your desire belonged to her, and how much of it was only your own unconscious tricking you? This is the trap Jung warned about. You don't just fall for her, you fall for yourself. And unless you wake up, you won't know the difference until she has already consumed you. The archetype Jung warned about is not locked away in the past. She is not just a figure in myth or folklore. Today, she thrives more than ever, nurtured by the very structure of our society. Look around you, a culture built on consumerism and spectacle. A digital world where validation is currency and attention is power. Social media doesn't just connect us, it magnifies the most destructive traits of the archetype. Narcissism is rewarded, manipulation is aestheticized. The curated image becomes more valuable than the lived reality. Here, the destructive anima finds fertile ground. The woman who drains rather than nourishes, who consumes rather than uplifts, is no longer rare. She is algorithmically amplified. Instagram celebrates her vanity. TikTok glorifies her chaos. Dating apps fuel her transactional mindset. And society, hypnotized by the glow of screens, calls it empowerment without asking who pays the hidden cost. For men, this is a minefield. You believe you are entering a relationship, but often you are stepping into a carefully designed illusion. You are not just meeting her, you are meeting the culture that shaped her, the endless feedback loops that told her what to value, and the invisible forces that engineered her desires. This is why Jung's warning feels eerily prophetic today. He spoke of archetypes within the psyche, but now those archetypes have bled into the external world. The devouring mother, the destructive anima. They are no longer confined to dreams and myths. They scroll through your feed. They wait in the curated perfection of digital profiles. They are embodied in cultural scripts that encourage shallow thrills over genuine connection. And so the danger intensifies. Because when society normalizes toxicity, when culture rewards chaos, men begin to mistake dysfunction for normalcy. They call it passion. They call it modern love. Yet what they are really experiencing is the old archetype in a new disguise. Seductive, empowered, and more socially validated than ever. The question remains if society itself conspires to strengthen the destructive anima. How can a man possibly resist her pull? What happens when the warning is ignored? The cost is rarely immediate, rarely obvious. It creeps in quietly, slowly eroding a man's soul until he no longer remembers who he once was. At first, it feels intoxicating, the thrill of being wanted, of being needed. You justify her demands, her moods, her grip on your time and your mind. You convince yourself it is love. You silence the small voice whispering that something is wrong. And so the erosion begins not with explosions but with whispers. Your ambition softens. The goals that once pulled you forward lose their urgency. You sacrifice your friendships, your freedom, your solitude. You trade them all for her approval, thinking that one day she will finally be satisfied. But she never is. The more you give, the less you are. Years pass. You look in the mirror and find a stranger. Your creativity dulled, your vitality drained. You realize you no longer chase dreams, you chase peace. Scraps of quiet in a relationship that devours you whole. Jung warned that the wrong partner doesn't just make life difficult. She derails your individuation, the process of becoming your truest, fullest self. When you are bound to the destructive archetype, you are not growing, you are shrinking. You are not expanding, you are dissolving. This is why Jung's words strike with such gravity. The danger is not simply heartbreak. It is not even the collapse of a marriage. The danger is existential. It is the possibility of living an entire lifetime without ever becoming who you were meant to be. And when that realization comes, it does not roar. It whispers. It stares back at you in silence, in regret, in the knowledge that time cannot be reclaimed. That is the cost of ignoring the warning. Jung never condemned marriage itself. He condemned unconscious marriage, the kind born from blindness, projection, and desperation. His warning was not meant to scare you away from love. It was meant to awaken you to the truth that love without awareness can become a prison. The path forward is not avoidance. It is individuation, to confront your shadow, to integrate your anima, to see clearly rather than project blindly. Only then can you choose a partner consciously without mistaking illusion for destiny. This is the essence of Jung's teaching. Wholeness begins within. If you seek completion in another person, you hand them the keys to your soul. You beg them to fix wounds they never created, and in doing so, you make yourself vulnerable to the devouring archetype. But if you face your inner fractures, if you learn to stand whole in your own solitude, marriage no longer threatens your identity. It becomes something else entirely. Not a battlefield, not a slow erosion, but a union of equals. Two whole selves meeting not out of need but out of strength. So the warning is not never marry. The warning is never marry unconsciously. Never mistake projection for reality. Never surrender your becoming for the illusion of completion. The most dangerous woman is not only the one you meet in the world, she is the one who lives in your mind disguised as longing. And until you confront her, she will haunt every relationship you enter. Jung's warning remains timeless. The wrong partner can consume your life, but the right partner chosen with awareness can help you transcend it. The choice, as always, begins with you. If this message challenged your perspective, share it. Start conversations. Help others see what lies beneath the surface of their choices. The more we bring the unconscious into the light, the less power it has over us. And if you want to go deeper into these hidden truths, where psychology, philosophy, and human behavior collide, then stay connected. Subscribe, follow, and join the journey. Because this channel isn't about quick answers, it's about unsettling questions. The kind that make you pause, rethink, and see the world differently. The warning has been given. What you do with it is up to you.